What if the global economy runs on a promise that may never truly be fulfilled? Governments worldwide now carry more than $315 trillion in total debt, with the United States alone owing over $38 trillion, and nations like Japan, China, Europe, and even oil-rich countries borrowing heavily each year. Yet this raises a strange and powerful question. If every country is borrowing, who is actually doing the lending? And if everyone owes money, who ultimately gets paid? This question leads to a surprising discovery. The global financial system is not a simple story of borrowers and lenders. Instead, it is a vast network of promises, where nations, banks, and citizens all owe each other at the same time. To understand how this system works, we need to explore where national debt came from, why governments keep borrowing, and why the world may never fully repay what it owes. The story begins long before modern banking apps or digital payments existed. The foundation of national debt was built during war. In the late 17th century, European governments needed enormous amounts of money to finance military conflicts. Instead of relying solely on gold or taxes, they began borrowing from private investors. England formalized this system in 1694 when it established the Bank of England to manage loans used to fund war spending. Investors received government bonds, which guaranteed future payments backed by taxation. This innovation changed everything. Governments could now raise large sums instantly, and investors gained a reliable source of income. Soon, other nations adopted similar systems. Borrowing became a tool of power. The ability to issue debt demonstrated stability and credibility. Countries that could borrow cheaply were seen as trustworthy, while those that could not often struggled economically. Over time, debt stopped being a sign of weakness. Instead, it became the foundation of modern finance. Governments used borrowing to build infrastructure, expand economies, and stabilize markets during crises. Financial markets evolved around trading government bonds, and entire economies began relying on them as safe investments. Fast forward to 2026, and debt has grown into one of the defining forces of global economics. According to international financial research, total global debt now exceeds $315 trillion, nearly 3 times the world's annual economic output. Governments continue to borrow heavily to fund public spending, respond to economic shocks, and support growth. But this raises a deeper question: where does all this borrowed money come from? To understand the answer, consider the structure of U.S. government debt. While headlines often suggest that foreign countries control America's finances, most U.S. debt is actually owned domestically. Pension funds invest in treasury bonds to secure retirement income. Banks hold government securities because they are considered low risk. Insurance companies, mutual funds, and individual investors also purchase these bonds. Even the Federal Reserve, the country's central bank, holds large quantities. This creates a circular flow of money. Citizens pay taxes, the government pays interest on its debt, and that interest returns to investors, who are often the same citizens through retirement funds and savings accounts. The country effectively owes money largely to its own financial system. Foreign investors do hold a portion of U.S. debt, but their share is smaller than many assume. Japan remains the largest foreign holder, followed by China, along with several European financial centers. Yet foreign ownership represents only a fraction of total debt. The global financial system is far more interconnected than simple political narratives suggest. This interconnected structure extends worldwide. Nations invest in each other's government bonds. Developing countries store their reserves in advanced economies. International institutions provide loans that circulate through global markets. The result is a financial system built on mutual dependence. Imagine a circle of countries lending to one another simultaneously. Each government holds assets issued by another.
Each promise depends on another promise for support. The system functions because participants trust that obligations will be honored. Behind this network stands an even more powerful force: global financial markets. Investors managing trillions of dollars determine which countries can borrow cheaply and which must pay high interest rates. Their decisions influence currency values, economic stability, and government policy. When markets trust a country's ability to manage its finances, borrowing remains affordable. When confidence fades, financial pressure rises quickly. At the center of modern finance are central banks, institutions that play a crucial role in managing debt and money supply. Central banks purchase government bonds to support economic stability, especially during crises. When they buy these assets, they create new money that enters the financial system. This process demonstrates a fundamental truth about modern economics. Much of today's money originates from debt. Every unit of currency represents a liability somewhere in the system. Government bonds become assets for investors, while money created through lending circulates throughout the economy. Debt and money are deeply interconnected. This leads to another surprising reality. Governments rarely plan to eliminate their debt completely. Instead, they manage it by issuing new bonds to replace old ones, a process known as refinancing. As long as investors continue buying government debt and interest payments remain manageable, the system continues functioning. At first glance, this approach may seem risky. Why would governments maintain permanent debt? The answer lies in the role government bonds play in global finance. They provide safe investments for financial institutions, support banking systems, and help stabilize markets. Eliminating them entirely could disrupt economic stability. However, the system relies heavily on confidence. History shows what happens when that confidence weakens. Greece experienced a severe debt crisis in 2010 when investors questioned its ability to repay obligations. Borrowing costs surged, leading to international intervention and economic hardship. Argentina has repeatedly defaulted on its debt, damaging investor trust. Sri Lanka recently faced economic collapse after running out of foreign currency needed to service loans. These events reveal a critical truth. Debt systems function smoothly only when trust remains strong. When confidence disappears, financial stability can unravel quickly. Another important dimension of global debt involves its impact on economic inequality. While governments borrow to support public spending and economic growth, interest payments often flow towards investors and financial institutions holding government bonds. This dynamic can shift wealth towards those who own financial assets, contributing to widening economic disparities. Yet the relationship between debtors and creditors is not simply a conflict. Both roles are necessary for the functioning of modern economies. Borrowing allows investment and growth, while lending provides stability and returns. The system depends on both sides working together.